Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from Pittsburgh, Kansas, a small town in southeast Kansas. I moved to St. Pete, Florida about 10 years ago, and I love it. I consider this my home. St. Pete is a great place. I love Florida. The weather's beautiful, and yeah, so fighting kind of brought me here. So fighting's done a lot for me. So
Okay, awesome. So let's start with your early journey in fighting. So like you said, fighting's done a lot to you. It's brought you a lot of places. How did fighting's not the traditional career path that like most people pick for themselves. So how did like fighting find you and that begin?
yeah, so it's kind of a funny story. I was kind of a little overweight in like middle school, and
Mm,
I got bullied kind of a little bit. So I started just getting in shape. I started with jiu-jitsu, and I actually went to some cage fights about 30 minutes out of town. First times I ever saw fights with my dad, and the guy who won the title belt that night, when they were all walking out, everything like crowd was going crazy, just like seeing all that. I was like, I want to be one of those guys. So then, when I got back the next day, I went to the YMCA, and the guy that had just won the middleweight title was actually at the YMCA. So I went and just asked him if he could show me some stuff. And I think he brushed me off at the beginning, but I kept showing up. Eventually, he took me over to his gym, and I just never quit after that. I just kept going. Started doing jujitsu tournaments, and then my first fight was actually on my 18th birthday. So got right after it as soon as I legally could. Been fighting ever since. So
So jiu-jitsu was kind of like the your foot in the door of like fighting and everything like that.
yeah, jujitsu's my first love in combat sports. I love the groundwork. Currently, I'm a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. I don't really train in the gi too often. I do a lot of no gi and MMA. But
Hmm.
yeah, jiu-jitsu is my home base. That's kind of like jiu-jitsu for me is like riding a bike. I can stay away from it as long as I need to, but the second I get back on the mats, it all kind of just comes back to me. So
Hmm.
that's definitely what I revert to whenever I need to just kind of take over in a fight.
No, I feel you. Well, one, if having that level of like, I'm not like a fighter, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a professional fighter, but I did do like a year of wrestling in high school. Had a chance to like take some classes here and there. So, not someone who's probably going to stand up to a professional, but have a little bit of an understanding of fighting a little bit in itself. And so just kind of like hearing that background you have with jiu-jitsu, I know it has to be very comforting to be able to go into any fight and just know at the worst case scenario you can just kind of like just take it to the ground, and it's like just walking into like home base for you.
Yeah, yeah, having that jujitsu base is definitely a comforting feeling. I think everybody should go do some jujitsu, learn how to defend themselves, and it's just good for you all around. Good for your mentality. If you wrestled for a year, you know all about the wrestler's mentality. Those
Mhm.
dudes. I unfortunately didn't wrestle in high school. I started with jujitsu, but the mentality that wrestling puts inside of you and the work ethic and just discipline is unreal. So wrestling, I think, is the hardest sport on earth. I've practiced with a lot of really good guys, and yeah, I've never been put on my back so fast. So definitely shout out to anyone who sticks with wrestling because that sport ain't no joke. And
Mhm.
I definitely wish I would have kind of got into that when I was a kid growing up, just for for the mental reasons, because wrestlers have the strongest minds that I've ever come across.
Yeah, wrestlers are definitely not a joke. I would say Muay Thai people who I've met also have like really strong mentals as well. And but I think that so you got in because you were getting bullied in eighth grade. Now that you kind of like have that experience of being like a pro fighter, and you wanted to give advice to someone coming up on like how to best defend themselves or how to prepare for like a street fight or something like that, what would you say to someone that, you know, doesn't necessarily have that background and just wants to be able to like strap themselves in case a situation pops off?
I definitely say learn jiu-jitsu, learn how to close the distance, kind of take someone down, and just be able to. I feel like you can just take control of the situation a lot better if you have the ground skills. Because anytime you watch a street fight, I mean, they end up on the ground eventually. Um, Plus, with the striking, I mean, anybody can get lucky with a lucky punch. So you never know what's going to happen if you throw hands with someone. But if you know jujitsu and they don't, then you definitely have a major advantage. But I always say, anytime in the streets, if it's possible, just avoid that situation completely. Nothing good ever comes from a street fight. But if you do have to defend yourself, strike
Agree.
first, strike hard, and get away from it as quick as possible.
100% agree. And going into what your statement about like someone having jujitsu and the other person not, like I had a little bit, but I had the opportunity to roll once with Higan Machado, and like it was one of the like craziest experiences I've ever. You'll appreciate this. One of the craziest experiences I've ever had because, like, one Higan, like he's a bigger guy, like weight wise. Like I'm taller than him, but like he 200 something pounds. And so when we started getting into it, he was like the slowest guy I ever like rolled with at all. And he was just not in a rush because I would like try something new, but like, oh, I already know what you're doing. Let me just brush that away. That was cute. And then all of a sudden, like my arm's gone. And then now I'm like, all right, let me try to get out of this. And I'm trying to get my arm back and I'm fighting him. And now my other leg is gone. And then slowly but surely, this big man is just like lying on top of me. And there's just nothing I could do about it.